What's up and welcome to the video. So we have a very popular and anticipated product today. This is the Apple Vision Pro, one of the biggest releases of the entire year, and it's a really important one because it marks Apple's foray into a completely new product category, virtual reality headsets. Wait, that doesn't sound right. What is Apple calling this? Oh, spatial computing. And given that this is a product that Apple's never really made before, there is naturally a lot to talk about. And we kind of want to break it down by talking about how Apple advertised the Vision Pro, how they built it and put it together, its functionality, and what it's kind of like to use it. So kind of along the lines of things like first impressions. And Apple has incorporated a ton of technology in order to make the Vision Pro work. So let's start with the front of it. It is made out of one single piece of 3D curved laminated glass. And whenever you're looking at it, you can actually see a solid amount of lenses on the front. Like I think there's at least 8 on the front. Some are going to point in front of you, some are going to point sideways, and some are actually going to point underneath of you. Some of these are cameras to allow for some pretty high quality pass-through, but the rest are going to be sensors in order to provide you with really accurate hand tracking, whether you prefer to have your hands out in front of you or beside you, something a little bit more comfortable. And interestingly enough, this glass also houses a display that points outward, and that is actually going to project a persona of your eyes, which we'll get to that portion a little bit later into the review. Let's talk a little bit about what you'll find on the inside whenever you put Vision Pro on. So there are infrared sensors and cameras on the inside of Vision Pro that lead to, seriously, some wickedly accurate eye tracking. And there is enough pixel density per screen that you're going to have slightly more than 4K resolution for each eye, which is going to lead to just some seriously sharp picture quality and just a really sharp user experience compared to other products on the market. Now, speaking of other products on the market, whenever you go to buy a Vision Pro, you are actually going to have to provide a Face ID scan in order to get, I don't want to say a totally customized kind of like light fixture here, but it will be partially customized. So that's really important. And as far as the strap goes on the back, that will be somewhat customized as well. And it's really cool. You'll use a crown on the back to adjust the looseness and the tightness of the band itself. Now, in my experience using it, the default band that comes with it, the one that just straps onto the back of your head, it can lead to some pressure. The Vision Pro is a headset that is very front heavy. So I would recommend using the additional band that they provide in the box that actually straps to the top of your head. It'll probably mess up your hair whenever you do it, but it should lead to some better weight distribution, because in my experience, after about 20 to 30 minutes of using Vision Pro, I definitely feel some pressure on my face, and that additional band, you swap this one out that comes with it, that one should help with things like that. And all of this hardware works in tandem with the Apple R1 and the Apple M2 that are essentially running the show here. So you will put the Vision Pro on your face and you'll use the little crown on the back left of the headband to adjust the fit. Once you get the fit adjusted, your UI will pop up right in front of you. Now, by default, you'll be in pass-through mode, and the UI does a fantastic job of just blending in the room with you. The setup process itself is also really cool, and I think the setup process really does a good job of giving you an idea of how you are going to interact with Vision Pro, because it is very different. Like, it doesn't even come with controllers. Everything will be driven by your eyes and your hands. And I think that initial setup process does a really good job of outlining it. So whenever you're going through to calibrate for your eyes, you'll see dots pop up on your screen. I believe there's like 6 or 7 of them, and they're all located in different spots of where your field of view essentially. You are going to use your eyes to focus in on a dot, and then you're going to pinch in order to get that dot out of your field of view. And it's insane how accurate the tracking is, regardless of how fast or slow you move with your eyes. Vision Pro picks it up, and it does a great job of highlighting which dot you're looking at as you go through your setup process. And that essentially remains the same as you're navigating throughout the UI. And that's really important to remember. So let me give you an example of why this is so important. So when I was going through the setup process, there was a portion of the Vision Pro that I had to sign in with my Apple ID. I realized as I was typing in my email that I actually misspelled something at the beginning of the email address. And whenever I'm using I don't want to say on screen because it's technically floating in front of you, but when I'm using the keyboard that's floating in front of me, I'm looking at the delete button and I'm deleting to get back to where I made that typo. If I look away from that delete button to see where my progress is at on my email, it stops deleting because everything you do on this product predicates on where your eyes are looking. So something like that is going to take some time to get used to, but when Apple claimed that they have really accurate eye and hand tracking, they weren't kidding. If you calibrate this correctly, you have a good light seal, you have a good fit on your head, the hand tracking and the eye tracking is phenomenal on Vision Pro. And of course, we're gonna do our best to capture the experience of using Vision Pro with screen recording, but I think the important thing to note is that regardless of how good the screen recording is, it really doesn't do the experience on Vision Pro justice. And it's really cool that you have a wide variety of features, whether or not you want to use like the environmental mode or you want to use pass-through mode. And in case you're curious on how you would even use something like environmental mode, the Vision Pro comes with two buttons. One is a flat button on the left side of the Vision Pro, and that's going to be used for things like spatial photos and videos. At least for me, I haven't used it very often, but again, this is more of a first impressions. The review is coming later on down the line. But your second button is going to be a digital crown. So if you've ever used an Apple Watch, you're going to be very familiar with both of these buttons. Your digital crown is going to be the button that you use to go home, to bring up the kind of like app interface, and it's also going to be the button that you use to do things like turn up the volume that comes out of the speakers and also enable environmental mode. I personally think environmental mode is really, really cool. You can essentially immerse yourself into a landscape of some kind. Apple has a few available at launch, but there are also a few that are coming soon. They're really realistic. And if you use applications that are optimized for Vision Pro, the level of depth and immersion that you can get into whenever you use certain applications and stuff like that, it's actually pretty mind-blowing. And of course, there are other things that you can do like multitasking. You can extend your MacBook Pro's display onto your Vision Pro and you can make it as big as you want. And the cool part is that if you wanted to continue using like Bluetooth accessories, like if you have a Bluetooth keyboard and you have a Bluetooth mouse, you can actually use those to navigate while you're extending your MacBook Pro's display on Vision Pro. So the productivity features are definitely there. Now, one kind of weird thing that I wanted to touch on as well was the idea of a persona. So think about a persona as like a digital representation of you, and it's going to be used for things like FaceTime calls, and it's also going to be used to project your eyes out to people who are looking at you using your Vision Pro. And I made my own persona. He looks a little strange, in my opinion. So hopefully it's something that will improve over time, but the steps of actually creating your persona are relatively in-depth, although you'll go through that setup process in about a minute. And like I said, if you happen to use Vision Pro on a FaceTime call, then your persona will be projected to the people who are on that FaceTime call with you. And it's really cool to see what other people are capable of. Like I was on a FaceTime call with a friend and he had multiple applications in floating space. He had a Safari tab open on one end. He had his messages on one end of his room. He had a YouTube video playing on his wall. I mean, the possibilities with something like this are definitely there, and I'm sure they're going to grow over time with things like software updates, but your biggest limiting feature is going to be the battery life. So if you take a look at the left side of the Vision Pro, there is a little locking mechanism for the charging cable to plug into it. There's no standalone battery for this headset, which means you have to be plugged into a battery source at all times. Now the battery source is included, but mind you, that battery is only going to last you about 2 to 4 hours on a single charge. If you want to use the Vision Pro for longer than that, you're going to have to kind of either daisy chain that battery pack to another battery pack via USB-C or just plug it into the wall, but then, you can only move as far as your USB Type-C cable is going to take you. So the Vision Pro is capable of a ton of amazing things, but just like almost any other product in this type of product lineup, the biggest limiting factor is going to be your battery life. But like I mentioned before, this is really just a first impressions video. A product like the Vision Pro is very intricate. There's a whole bunch of things that go into it. And obviously, this is a product where your experience with it is going to evolve over time, especially with it being a first gen product for Apple. So we're planning on making more content on the Vision Pro very, very soon. As a matter of fact, if there's something that you'd like to see us talk about, let us know in the comment section down below, and we will do our best to include it in the next video of the Vision Pro that we put out. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe down below so you're notified as soon as we upload that video. But I think that just about does it for our initial thoughts on the Apple Vision Pro. Thank you so much for watching as always. No, wait, hold on a second. Price. How much is the Vision Pro?
$34.99.
$3,500? Bro, what the?